Hello, everybody, and how are you? I hope it's a good day for all of you. It's getting to the end of August, and maybe you're in school, maybe your children are in school or getting ready to go to school. It's like I just don't know where the year went, but told you that the year's going by so quickly for me. I don't know whether I hope it's going by quicker for you or not, but you take it as you leave it. Okay, what I'd like to talk about today is a phrase that I recently encountered called the reality illusion. Now, I am not saying that there is no reality. There is on your street maybe a white house or a greenhouse with a beige car or some such thing like that. That's there. Everybody recognizes that it's there. I'm looking at it more from the standpoint that somebody may be looking at it from the standpoint that it's maybe an eyesore, and somebody else may be saying it's pretty cool. What we see and how we see something is not necessarily going to be the same thing for everybody because we all see things differently. And I've said this before. I could pull up something like in this particular case, this marker. I'm looking at it so that I can see the words expo over here. You can see the words expo too, but you're looking at a different side of it. Let's put it over, whatever. Okay, I'm looking at it so that I see words over here. You've got the white strip that has no words. It's still the same marker, but it's not the same thing that we're seeing. So we see the reality of the thing, but we still don't see the same thing. And I think you all recognize that in a large sense, but I'm trying to get this to go down a little bit in a finer tune kind of perception. Because if you're thinking in terms of maybe I've got the marker and somebody says, oh, I hate those things because they get all over my hands or they make a mess or some such thing like that. You've got a perception about that that's coloring the way you look at this. Somebody else may look at it and say, okay, that's nice, whatever. It's still got a different perception. It's still got a different reality. So even though they're looking at the marker, they're still thinking in terms of different things, or maybe even not thinking about it, and which is still a difference in the reality of looking at it. Does that make sense? You follow me? So let's take a look at the idea of when we're doing different things, say, like, let's say you're a manager at work and you enjoy what you do. And maybe you have a couple of employees that don't do as well. What's their reality of the work? If you're looking at things as being one particular idea that maybe the employees are out to get the company, maybe they should be enjoying the work, or you're looking at it from the standpoint of maybe negativity because you're thinking that they're probably trying to steal. The employees may be taking a look at you as if you're being overbearing or too critical or too picky or whatever. So you're not looking at all the issues the same way, even though you may be looking at it, which I didn't mention, the same job meaning particular task. So you give somebody a particular task. This you could give, for those of you who are parents, maybe you give a child a task, go take out the garbage. You see it in one particular way. What's the reality for the child? It's going to depend a lot. It's going to depend on the age of the child, granted, but if you think in terms that how their attitudes and their responses are going to depend on the way they see it and the interpretation they give for that particular task. Maybe you're just thinking in terms of germs, garbage pickups tomorrow. Maybe it's just a habit that you'd always do it at certain times and things like that. Maybe the child is looking at it from the standpoint of you're too picky. What's the big deal? They're going to have a different reaction if they don't see, quote, the reality of it the same way you do. Okay, so I think in terms that maybe this might make sense. So let's take this even a step further and say, what about the tasks you look at that you want to do or you don't want to do? If you're approaching, let's say, cooking or house cleaning or laundry or grocery shopping. I know some people that hate grocery shopping. I know some people that enjoy it. I remember somebody that actually enjoyed cleaning the floors in her house because she was really proud of them. A lot of people I know don't have that particular attitude because they're taking a look at it from a completely different, if you will, reality. Because the woman who enjoyed cleaning the floors because she got a enjoyment and she was pleased by the fact that people complimented her on the good job of what she did because she did such a good job. And people were envious and said, I wish I could do that kind of stuff. So she's looking at it from a completely different standpoint than somebody who's looking at it as, gee, I hate to do this job, and I don't really care what they look like kind of thing. So that when your reality toward a particular task is going to be negative or positive, that's got to color how you go about doing that task. So I'm going to suggest that maybe you think about something that you got to do this week that you don't want to do. What's your view of the reality of that task? One thing just came to mind, just popped in, which wasn't even in my head 30 minutes ago, is taxes. Even though this is not tax time, a lot of people take a look at it as a negative, but some people more negative than others, maybe because they've got so much things to do and they haven't done anything all year to keep things organized. And so what they're looking so much as not the taxes themselves as the organization and putting everything together is what they hate. Maybe they hate more than the doing the taxes. And other people, they're going to have everything together. They're going to go out and they're going to say, okay, I'm going to get it done and get it over and done with so I can watch everybody else, squirm for the rest of the year because they haven't done them yet. So even though we can talk about taxes and most people don't necessarily like them, you're still going to have people that are going to have different attitudes and different reality toward it than others. I mean, it's got to be a different reality toward the people who get it done almost like the first time week you can do it, and they've got their taxes done and over and finished. And then there's going to be those that are in the line at the tail end, the last day, waiting to mail it off or send it off or whatever they're going to do with it. Their reality and their viewpoint about that is going to be very, very different. So maybe when you're making your to-do list, so to speak, and you're trying to figure out, what do I need to do and when do I need to do it? If you take a look at what you view your reality is as those things you don't want to do, that may be making it worse for you than if you try and change and modify your reality to something like, okay, if I do it now, I get it over and done with, and I don't have to have it hanging over my head. Change your perception toward it. Take a look at it maybe from a slightly different angle, going back to this again. If you turn it around, you've got, now I'm seeing the blank spot and you're seeing the words. If you just change the idea just ever so slightly, it might make it a little more, I don't want to say pleasurable. That might be too strong in some cases, depending on what you're doing, especially when you start out trying to change things. But it might not make it so arduous, and it might make it not so miserable a task if you can begin to take a look at your reality and change how you look at that particular task. Because it's really, literally, your reality is all in your head, pure and simple. Because nobody's going to see that task the same way you do. Nobody's going to look at doing the dishes or doing the laundry or doing your homework or going to work or whatever the same way you do. So if you want to change your attitude toward about that, that's essentially what's going to happen if you want to be happier or be more miserable, as the case may be. Does this make sense? I hope so. If you have any questions or if it doesn't make sense, send me a note and ask me more about what I was talking about, and I can go into this deeper. I hope it makes sense and you can begin to see that essentially if you're miserable, you're your own worst enemy. It's not what people are doing to you. It's the way you're looking at those tasks that's making things miserable for you. And if you want to change your life, make it less miserable, you need to start taking a look at the reality you've got and what your reality of illusion is and modify those illusions to make them a different illusion. Reality is still, it's going to be there. But, what's the illusion that you've got about that particular reality? Okay, so I hope this was helpful. If you know somebody you can send it to, please share. Again, as I said, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask me, and we will chat again next week. Let me know what you think about it, okay? Bye.